I want to say this right at the gate. It's not as bad as it seems. I understand that. It's not as bad as it seems. Right. The reason I'm saying that is we've got the Four of Swords coming up here as your underlying energy. So this is that. I mean, I know a lot of people have been messaging me saying they've been getting hardly any sleep. Or, you know, there's either people that all they do is sleep, or there's people that are not getting any sleep. But whichever way, there seems to be energy issues going on. That might be the case for some of you. But with the Four of Swords coming up here, and especially with the Knight of Swords, this is like a pause in the argument. It may not be even, you know, it doesn't have to be a out and out fight. But the Four of Swords, it's, have we taken a pause to go figure out what it is that we actually believe now, what it is that we actually want? Now, the reason I say that is because I've got the Hanged Man in the present underneath this mess. And that's about, what do I believe? And your perspective changes, right? Your philosophy in life changes with that. And this is kind of going on here. So this is what's been happening. That's what I would say. That brings you into July with this, hang on, I just need to take a break. Now, some of you have been doing some deep shadow work. And if you watched my Instagram live that I did, I came on live and pulled some cards for a message for the solar eclipse that's happening in your sign. One of the things I talked about is how the whole shadow work thing, you know, before we couldn't get people to go and do the shadow work. Now it's like we can't get people out of the shadow work. They're just like, oh, let me just work on this. Let me just heal this. And I've said it before, all the healing, all of that kind of stuff is happening as we go forward now, as we go forward. But this feels like a pause, right? So the Four of Swords is a pause. Whenever fours show up, nothing is moving, nothing is changing. And the Four of Swords implies that, you know, we've gone through some heartache, pain, loss, grief, whatever it was. That could have been 10 years ago. But we've gone through some healing. This is a pause. It's a pause to rest, allow fresh energy in, allow the dust to settle. It can be, if there's an argument, everyone goes off to their own corners. It can be a temporary separation. But with the Knight of Swords coming up with this, especially if we just come out of Gemini season, this card for Gemini, right? And the signs don't own the cards, remember that. They just lend their characteristics. So with the Knight of Swords coming up here, he takes action based on his beliefs. But when I see the Four of Swords and I see the Hanged Man, it's almost like, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to ask. I don't even know. There's a kind of a big I don't know over this. And I know that's a strange way to read it, especially if you know anything about the tarot. Because the Knight of Swords, he knows. He knows what his truth is. He goes in very spontaneously, goes and says his piece, you know. He can be a little bit brash and very spontaneous. He doesn't think too much about it. It's like, oh my God, that's the truth. Let's go and say it. That kind of energy. So there is this kind of energy of, I think I know what the truth is, but I don't know what I believe. I'm getting that. I don't know why I'm getting that for you guys, but there's a kind of, I don't know what to believe. I don't know what to think. Now, it makes sense. Because look at this. You've got the Nine of Wands at the heart of this. And that is, you know, when we've been doing something for a very long time. A very long time. So I feel it, guys. I feel it. If you've been at something for a long time and, you know, you gave it your all. You've given it your all. You worked hard on it. Look at him stoking the little fires here. There's a bloody volcano blowing up in the background. Still at his job. Still doing what he has to do. But you get, you know, if you're going through this and you've done this, there's this kind of sense of frustration, I guess there would be, because you've put so much effort into something. Now you're not even sure if you believe in it anymore. Now, whether that's your decision that was made or someone else's, because this is general reading sex go both ways. Whatever the case is, there's either non-communication going on. Oh gosh, what's even worse? Something else just came to me. What's even worse is if the Knight of Swords is trying to communicate and the Four of Swords is like, no, not talking. Got nothing to say right now. So there can be some of that. But I usually read the underlying energy as one energy, right? So I would just say, I get it. And you're probably exhausted about this. You've been putting a lot of action and fire and energy into something. I see that. Why am I saying that? Because we have the Queen of Wands coming up as a past energy. I kind of feel like it's time to wrap something up and move on to something new. Or even if it's an existing situation, wrap up that cycle within that relationship, work, whatever it is you're dealing with. And let's come at it in a different way. I think you've tried it this way, the Queen of Wands. She's very confident. She takes a lot of action. She kind of goes for it. Sexy, passionate. I love her. I love her. And, you know, look at this. This I think this is Pele, the volcano goddess. But amazing energy that comes out of her creation, right? her creative impulses. She goes after, she pursues her passions. Feels like you have. Feels like you have. But why does it feel like it's not been worth anything? Why are you left thinking, look how much effort I put into this? And you have. I'm not going to even lie. You have put a lot of effort into something. But then why did this happen? And I understand why the cards aren't telling us the complete story, because it's going to be different for everyone. For some of you, you know, if you're trying to date, you've been really putting yourself out there. That's the Queen of Wands. She goes on dates, she gets glammed up, she goes out, she meets people. That's her energy. Or if it's work and career, you've been putting your best foot forward, right? Putting yourself in the spotlight, really putting in the effort. But you're exhausted. You're exhausted. 9 of Wands says that to me. So have you kind of retreated to go and figure out what your next move's going to be? Now, I want to say this, because if I see it, I say it. And I usually read the court cards as your energy. You'll know anyway, even if you're dealing with, that's why I don't say fire signs, Aries, Leo, Sagittarius. I don't do that stuff. Why? Because we have those all over our chart in different areas, first of all. And secondly, I always, even if you're dealing, say you're a water sign, you're dealing with a fire sign, you take on some of those elements. So, you know, even if I read it as your energy, you will know. Now, the Queen of Wands, when the King and Queen of Wands show up, because they have different meaning for me, an extra meaning. When they show up, this is someone who's very attractive. Someone that we don't know. Like, you know, that kind of sense of, oh my God, I don't know if I'm good enough for this person. Like, well, they're so amazing. Like, you know, how the hell would someone like that ever look at me? That kind of a feeling comes up around the King and Queen of Wands. We can have that kind of feeling around them. I actually said this about the King of Wands the other day. I said he's the kind of person that if he just looked at you, you know, get all kind of fluttery eyed and be like, oh my God, did he just look at me? Like, get all, doesn't care. It doesn't matter what age you are, how confident you are. That can happen. But I don't know why. If you've been attracting the wrong stuff, are you sick of the limelight? Are you just exhausted from putting all this effort into something? Whatever it is, this feels like we come into this month with a pause. Let's figure out what's going on. Let's let fresh ideas in. Let me figure out what I believe. Now, the thing is, you get the Hanged Man here. You get the Hanged Man here. Hanged Man is very much, I always see it as, you know, what do you believe? That's why everything's paused. He always leaves something of the ego up there when he comes down. He always does. Now, what does that mean? It means, and I get, you know, someone will always message me and mansplain what ego means to me after I use that word. But let me explain what I mean by this. I mean something that he identifies with. Something that he says, this is my identity. The job, the relationship, the car, the clothes, the social circle, whatever it is. Something lacks meaning anymore. It doesn't lack, it just hasn't got any meaning. And so that's what it makes sense, right? You put so much effort into something and now all of a sudden it's like, but I don't even know if it has meaning anymore. Do I want to be an actress? Do I even care about that business? You know, I keep going on these dates. Do I really like any of these kind of people? Like, you know, that it's very much reconsidering. No one likes that kind of an energy because we want to just keep going. But this one actually serves you. It serves you. And I love it, actually. If you look at it in that sense, I'm trying to figure out what I believe, what ideas I've got, how I feel about all of this stuff. Then the Knight of Swords is amazing because he's going to be a truth seeker. In that respect, then he's going to look for the truth. I want the truth in this. I want to understand what's going on here because this can kind of throw you. That kind of energy can throw you, right? So, right, if your kind of energy this month is trying to figure out what matters to you, that's what I'm getting. What matters to you? That is cool. That's okay. You're not doing anything wrong. And in fact, if you're that exhausted with the situation, then isn't it better to and think, why? Why am I so tired of this? I gave it my all once upon a time. Now I just don't feel it. I'll let you into a little secret. When I used to be very ill, and I don't do health readings, but I just want to give you an example of what I mean by the Queen of Wands. And the cards have so many different meanings, guys. That's why for the generals, I pick the main story that kind of comes up, but there's so many ways. That's why personals are very different. But when I used to be very ill, and suddenly if I'd had a relapse, the Four of Swords and the Tower would come up for me all over the place, always. Still till today that happens. That's my personal message. I'm not saying that's for anyone else. But whenever I started seeing the Queen of Wands or Strength, then I knew my energy's coming back. Because she's energetic. She puts her energy out into the world. And I never used to have energy to put out into the world, right? Now, think about that. Energy to put back out in the world doesn't mean I was going to get all dolled up and go dating it would mean, hey, maybe I can go sit up and watch TV with my family today. Like, you know, that kind of energy. So it's always relative. We look at it in that way. Now, the reason I'm bringing that up is I'm trying to explain to you the energetic message that's coming through here, especially for a month, because it's a bigger aspect of our story. This could be from 10 years ago. Maybe you haven't felt attractive in 10 years. Maybe you kind of feel like, what have I been doing for 10 years? But you take a moment to figure it out now. What matters to me now? This used to matter to me. Does it matter to me now? You're about to figure that out. And this is but how do we figure it out? By looking at things from a different perspective. We flip it on its head. We look at it and think, well, why is it exhausting me? Why did I like it? You know, questions, why? But why can only be answered by us. We cannot ask any why outside of ourselves. Why am I bored with this? Rather than, why is that boring? Because it isn't boring. It just is. Your reaction to it is one of boredom or not interested in it. Or you don't want to have this conversation. Why, right? Only you can answer that. Once you answer that, and it's strange because one of the messages I learned about the hangman is a pause to get the information that you need, to see things from the perspective that you need to. Once you get it, once it clicks, then you're off and running. Then things get moving very quickly. And indeed, we have the Chariot coming up after that. I know it doesn't feel like it. When we're paused in this kind of energy, nothing happening, there's no answers, it feels like. It feels like we'll never know. We'll never know what's going on. But I want you to look at something. You've put passion into this. I'm going to just go out on a limb and say this around the relationship. Just because the sex was good, or just because there was intense excitement and passion and all of that stuff, sometimes we can mistake that for a deep emotional commitment. And I think you've kind of realized there wasn't one for those of you. I don't know who that was for, but that's a specific message that's coming through around that. But same with work, right? Just because you put a lot of action and energy into something, creative energy, it doesn't mean it's fulfilling at a heart level. I'm saying that because there aren't any hearts coming up. But the Chariot is all about balancing head and heart to move forward. And that's what's been lacking here. And I think July might be the realization that my heart was never in this. But the good news is, it kind of feels like you know what your heart is into, or you go exploring, looking for it, because the Chariot comes up. And I want to be clear, it doesn't mean that you're going to leave relationships or leave work or, you know, move, or any of that. Because I don't really see endings here. We can change everything with a change in our consciousness. How we perceive something. Perception is everything. That's what happens to him. He's seeing it from a different perspective. Everything's flipped on its head. And for whatever it is, if those of you that have been going through an existential crisis, those of you that have been going through dark night of the soul energy, just not known what the hell's going on, volcanoes blowing around you, and you're like, I don't know. Things become much clearer, and you have a direction. Those of you that have been lacking direction. Now, the advice is the Ace of Pentacles. So all you need to look out for, my darling Cancerians, is the potential. This is, you know, what potential is there here for you to grow this? And if you see that potential, please, just commit to it. That's what I would say. And you don't have to do it all your own. Like, it's not all on you. That's the thing with the King, Queen of Wands. They take all the action. They're out there running around, doing everything. But there is potential here, real potential. Even for that relationship that's all been, like, you know, hot and heavy. And some of you might be thinking, well, is that all it is? It feels like you find something that is worth committing to here. Ace of Pentacles. Now, this could be a new way of earning money. This could be a new relationship that we get into. Maybe we're tired of dating losers and now it's like, I just want to commit to someone. So we commit to that. There is a commitment here. The Chariot is self-control. It is routine. It is being balanced. It's taking hold of those reins, controlling everything, like, and going forward. I'm going to go forward and do this. But with the Ace of Pentacles coming up there, now a lot of times we want the end result. That's what a lot of people want. They want the end result. It's almost like they expect the person to show up at the door and, you know, it's going to be like, oh my God, I so know what side of the bed you sleep on and what's your favorite drink and how you like your coffee in the morning. And that's, you know, those little things that make a long-term relationship. We don't know that. How do we figure that stuff out? By committing. When anything shows up, that's the oak tree, right? that long-term relationship, that career, that job, it's the oak tree. But everything, an oak tree doesn't just show up at your door. It shows up as an acorn. So it's our job to see the potential in that, to see that, yes, this acorn can become an oak tree, but only if I plant it, only if I'm going to take on the responsibility of committing to this, of growing it, of building it strong. Because I love this. I love passion, but you feel burnt out here. Either you've been going too fast. I've been running around like a headless chicken, trying to find friends or lovers or get a social life or build a business or whatever. This is a much more sustainable pace. You're not going to burn out. This feels like burnt out energy here to me. No wonder you need a break, a rest, right? This, we build it slowly. And we want things to go fast and, quick. Then we do get burnt out. We do get burnt out. But let's get you some clarifiers. Justice. Okay. Yeah, see, that's what I mean. There's a balance here. There's a balance that is required. And whatever happened in the past, right? Whatever happened in the past. Because some of you might be, I can't do anything now because I don't have the energy or the fire or the attractiveness or whatever that I had in the past. Which is bullshit. Is that still your identity? That's what the hangman's asking you. And you got justice with this. Look at the major arcanas coming up in the present and in the future there. Justice is about balancing the scales. Fairness, making amends. Yes, it can be legal matters. We go into that. But it's at a core level. I do see justice as the making and the breaking of contracts. That's why it's both marriage and divorce. But have a look at this. I always feel like the written scrolls here, and I love the justice card in this one. The written scrolls here are the past. What happened, right? The details of what has happened. This energy. But it must be balanced by the present truth. Does it still work? That's what you're figuring out here. This feels quite massive. I mean, it looks kind of understated, but it feels like what's going on under the surface. With the hangman coming up here, this is an epiphany of some kind, a realization that balances everything, that makes sense, that you can, what's the word that I'm looking for? Not make amends, but you just balance it out within you. You kind of figure out, well, yeah, this is what I need to do. This is what makes sense to me. I can let that go, or I've forgiven that person, or this is a decision, because it feels like there is a decision that needs to be made. But it's a decision that feels like you didn't even know what the question was, right? Because there's that part of you raring to go to get answers, to figure it out. But from where? That's kind of what it feels like. I don't know. It's moving on, man. It's moving on from something. Because the Six of Swords is that. It's the journey card. It can be literally travel. But it's moving away from something. And I think it's moving away from a way of doing things, if that makes sense. Like, you've given too much, man. Like, with the Queen of Wands coming up, this is all that energy. Look how much she's pouring of herself into this. And yet it's turned into this. It's exhausting, the Nine of Wands, right? I just want out of this. How much longer do I have to keep doing this? So if you've been feeling stuck and you haven't been able to figure out a way, like say it's work and work's just been nuts, it's all been on you. Take a pause. Even if you just take the weekend off, or you can take a day off to just go contemplate and think about something. Because that rest is needed to allow this fresh ideas in and to see it from a different perspective. When we're in the fires, then all we see is the fire. But the Six of Swords is moving on, moving somewhere else. And that might have been it. You might have known what you wanted to leave behind, but you've not known where to go. The Ace of Pentacles is saying, look for the potential. And it's like, imagine you were trying to buy a house and you might be looking for houses, and you know what you want your dream house to look like. So you're looking for your dream house. But the Ace of Pentacles says, well, hang on a second. What if we buy this? It's a shell of a house. But we can create it. We can make it into what we want it to be, right? So I kind of feel like you've been wanted out of a situation, or you wanted to go forward, but you just haven't known. But you've been looking at certain options. I said this on that Instagram live that I did as well, that please don't get so caught up in the packaging, right, of what we want. We get so tied down and so specific. I want it to look like this. The union of hearts. There is a connection of love that defies explanation. Well, if you think about it, he wants everything explained, and there's like no answers coming from that person. So there is some of that here. There is some of that here. But please trust there's a way forward. And the thing is, when we're looking for answers outside of ourselves, especially, that can be very frustrating. And so this kind of justice energy is almost like, what do you want out of it? You know, a lot of times I will get people coming to me, like clients come to me for readings about relationships or work or whatever. And they say, like, you know, what's going to happen with this? Or, you know, is this, are they going to sack me? Are they going to employ me? Or, you know, whatever. But I always say to them, well, what do you want out of it? Are you just ready to accept whatever comes up? And there's some of that in this. What do you want out of it? What do you believe in? What's your truth that balances these scales? What is it that you want? Because that shows you the direction to go in. That gets things moving. But it kind of feels like if you're waiting for an external answer, that might be delayed with this energy coming up. And it might be around a connection. Do you know what I mean? Say there's someone that's caught your attention. The Queen of Wands energy. Someone's caught your attention. Look at this. You guys got fulfillment. I love this card. Beautiful reds, right? Now, fulfillment talks about abundance. Abundance coming in. You know, getting what this, you know, look, that's card of abundance as well. Look at that. How many generations are gathered around that feast, right? So there's that. But this says that abundance is a mindset. It's not something that it just happens. You know, one day I'll get that job. One day I'll be happy when I have the relationship. One day. It's like, no. What can you be grateful for right now? What makes you feel abundant right now? That's so key and important at this time. I'll be trying to get everyone to do that. You know, we are so aware. Everyone you speak to, go ask anyone, how you doing? They're like, oh, I want more sleep. I want more money. I want a relationship. I want this. I want this. Now, when we say that, and it's okay to have desires. I'm not saying it's not. It's perfectly fine. We're human beings. We have desires. We're here to enjoy everything, right? But we are declaring again and again and again, I'm not abundant. I'm not abundant. I am lacking. I'm not abundant. And it's not about lying. It's not about lying. But there are things in your life that you must be grateful for. I can't think of a single person that's not grateful for something. For something, right? I have a friend who's he's usually going through a pretty tough time. And even he will manage to tell me one little good thing that happened to him that day. Or, you know, I'm breathing or something like that. But he'll have a little laugh about it. Dear you, there is only one you, and you have a unique place in the universe. Sometimes situations come up that challenge you to be authentic. That means you have to be fully yourself and let go of being what you think others may want. Now is not the time to conform to other people's standards or expectations. Be proud of who you are and be courageous. Stand tall in your convictions, and that's him. That's what he does. He doesn't fight for his convictions. Stand tall, where was I? In your convictions. Being yourself is a powerful statement and will only lead you to success and ultimately happiness. Don't compare yourself to other people. Want what you have, choose what your heart wants, and know that your purpose is yours alone. No one else can claim your magic nor take it away. When you place authenticity and originality high on your list of priorities and give them a prominent place in your awareness, extraordinary things happen. Your life is a beautiful one. Love you always and forever. And that, you know, for some people, that's what I mean. I'm not that person anymore. Who am I? What matters to me now? Because this is energy of the Queen of Wands, which is larger than life. But then this is more logical, intelligent, what I believe. I want to go fight for my beliefs, that kind of energy. But either it's about marrying the two or understanding what that means for your life. But because when you change your beliefs, when you're like, I'm somebody else now, you're not going to want the same things. You're not going to be satisfied tending to the same fires. You won't be. So what needs to change? You know, I would say a reading is like Google Maps. It feels like you've explored your map. And it might have been great at one time. It's just, you're ready for something new. You're ready for something new. But what? And I feel like July is when you figure out what that new thing is that you truly want.